A very good day and good evening to all of us who have joined in today. It's been a wonderful series of webinars that we have been organizing for you, and we have been really honored to have been organizing this for you. We are happy and glad that we are getting a tremendous response from all of you here. As I see, there are more than 89 to 90 people who are watching us now live. That's a very encouraging support that you have been giving us. Today, yet again, we bring to you a wonderful topic on AR VR. During this pandemic time, I think we are virtually connected, and today we have a very renowned guest speaking to us on how AR and VR will help us do things in a better manner in this new normal. Again, from behalf of APU, Asia Pacific University, Malaysia, and Kumaraguru College of Liberal Arts and Science, Coimbatore, we gladly invite you for this particular session. On that juncture, I'd like to introduce my co-hosts for the day. We have two co-hosts for the day, Dr. Siti Azrina, and we also have Leo joining us from KC, KCLAS. I'd like to introduce them. Dr. Siddhi is a colleague, is my colleague with the Multimedia Technology Department at APU. She obtained a bachelor's degree from MMU and master's from UPM. So both bachelor's and master, she wanted to do it in multimedia technology, and that is a specialization. She is a doctorate from UPM in 2017, a research area being web design and engineering. So that's a strong forte. Also, at this juncture, I would like to share with you that Dr. Siddhi takes the lead when it comes to AR VR specialization at APU. So I think she would be the best person to actually host this particular webinar session. Her hobbies are jogging, running, and you have been warned, she is a martial art expert. So thank you, Dr. Siddhi, for being with us today. I have Leo Gertrude from KCLAS joining us today. Leo is a former APU lecturer, or a colleague of mine, a friend of mine, and his background is more into visual communication, and he completed his undergraduate from Loyola College, postgraduate from Anna University, Chennai. So welcome, Leo, for being a part of this session. With no further ado, I'd like to hand it over to Dr. Siddhi to introduce our guest for the day. Dr. Andrew, on screen for you.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Eddie. Hi. Hello, everyone. Thank you for being here this afternoon. I am Siti, a multimedia lecturer from APU, and I am your co-host for today's webinar session. Today, we are pleased to welcome Dr. Andrew Yew, a very special guest from one of our partners, Ministry XR. Let me introduce a little bit of background of Dr. Andrew. He is the Chief Technology Officer and co-founder of Ministry XR, a special computing development company based in Malaysia and Singapore. He has been in the AR/VR industry for 10 years, 7 of which were as an academic researcher studying AR technology and applications. Today, he is also the Malaysia chapter president of the VR/AR Association and founder of Ministry for Good, a non-profit organization that undertakes projects that utilize AR/VR technologies for good causes. Let me highlight some of Ministry XR projects here. First projects named Maxis Recollection and Unforgettable. These 2 projects commissioned by Maxis, which is designed to help dementia sufferers through reminiscence therapy. Second project named Ford, Second Chance VR Drive. It is a VR test drive simulation with integrated VR chair to sell the Ford Ranger Wildtrak in 2018. Third project, Subaru VR showroom and AR sales configurator. So this project specifically for Subaru company VR showroom, fully immersive car showroom, and AR sales configurator uses AR to visualize customizable options for selected Subaru car models. And last but not least, another project is Nutox Skin Analyzer. This is a mobile app that uses computer vision and machine learning to analyze the user's skin. Further development is ongoing. More features are being planned and added as well for all these projects. Okay, before I hand over the session to Dr. Andrew, let me brief you what is VR and AR as an introduction. So VR is a virtual reality. I think most of you know this. So it's a simulation of real world computer generated. So you can have an immersive experiences when you use the VR input devices such as a VR headset or the input controllers. Okay. In other hands, augmented reality, the root word augment means to add. So it is an overlay of computer generated content on the real world. So you use the real world as a background and does not really interact with it. Okay, that is AR. Therefore, for today's webinar session, related to our topic, better new normal through AR/VR. So we are going to see how AR/VR technologies will take place in our daily routine and lifestyle for a better new normal. Due to the due to the COVID-19 pandemic, our lives may not be the same for the next few months or years. So whatever we used to do before, we can't. Thus, Dr. Andrew will be sharing with us his expert opinion on the future and potential of AR/VR in this turn of unprecedented events. Without further ado, I hand over this session to Dr. Andrew Yew. Over to you, Doctor.
Thank you, Dr. Siti. Hello, everyone. Thank you to APU and the Kumara Guru College for having me on this session to share my opinions. And I'm especially very excited for APU's VR AR specialization course. I hope that it can train many students that my company would be able to hire. Okay, so let me start with the webinar. The title, A Better Normal Through AR VR. So my objective today is to share the different technologies and considerations for designing AR and VR applications and experiences, and to share some of the works that would lead to to us going through this difficult pandemic time. Even after the pandemic is over, all the differences in our lifestyle and our thoughts and our culture, how AR VR can still help to make our lives feel normal and perhaps even make it better. So Dr. Siti already gave a very comprehensive and a good introduction about me, so I won't spend so much time here. Just a bit more about my academic background. My research interests were in AR technology and applications in engineering, robotics, healthcare, and education. So, coronavirus, COVID-19. Here are some facts to show how real, how true this situation is, and how much we have to prepare for this new normal. So authorities say that a vaccine is quite a long way off. Some authorities mention at least 18 months before we have a vaccine. Some authorities mention even longer. And even so, the effectiveness is not guaranteed. Many authorities say that a coronavirus vaccine would be similar to a flu virus, only 30 to 50% effective. And with the reproduction rate of the coronavirus, without movement restrictions, infections would tend towards exponential growth. And when we have exponential growth, the limited hospital capacity will not be able to keep up. So even if the coronavirus symptoms are not so deadly, a lot of deaths would result because of the lack of the ability for hospitals to care for people with the virus, as well as to care for people who have other conditions. So what does this new normal mean? A lot of the measures that we have in place today would probably carry on to some extent. Social distancing would carry on because the coronavirus is still endemic, it's still in our environment, and social distancing is the best way of preventing ourselves from getting infected. Many companies have already announced that work from home would continue indefinitely, even after movement restriction orders and lockdowns have been lifted. For the population in general, it's expected that people would be traveling much less. A lot of countries that have been greatly affected, tourism would take some time to gear up and be able to have a proper infrastructure in place to accept people from different countries again. And then there's the fear. In near distant memory of mine, I don't recall another situation that has been as widespread and as scary as the COVID-19 situation. Looking at the statistics from certain countries, the number of deaths have been too great. So the fear would, I expect the fear of traveling, the fear of going out, the fear of going to the shops would be still a very big problem. And as someone who runs a company, there's also a great fear in starting a new business or even continuing current business. There's a lot of uncertainty in the markets, so there's a lot of fear that we would have to deal with as well. So with all the measures in place and the inability to go to work, inability to go shopping, I think it's very clear to see that digitalization is already a new normal. We order food online, we shop online, we work online, everything is online. And digitalization is the new normal. And I'm here today to say that AR, VR can make it better. Okay. So firstly, video games. Games make everything better, no matter what the situation is. On the screen here is a small little game that we created at Ministry XR in collaboration with KFC. It's called KFC Haha Hop. So how this game is played is really, really simple. It's an augmented reality game, and it's similar to Flappy Bird in terms of the game mechanics, but to control the character, you have to say ha and open your mouth. So every time you open your mouth and say ha, the character will jump up. And the objective of the game is to eat as many shrimp on the screen as possible by making your character jump to different levels. So this, as a branding exercise and as a game, a lot of people found that the game mechanics were very fun, was very interactive and immersive, and there was a lot of engagement with the brand and with this new product that KFC was trying to promote, a shrimp-based food. So the next thing, I'm going to go through a few examples of the projects that my company Ministry XR have done and is still carrying on. This one is another one where we use computer vision and machine learning to analyze the user's skin via the camera. And with the skin analysis results, the results will show how bad different aspects of your skin condition will be. And this will lead to recommendations of different skin products. So we did this in collaboration with Newtox, which is a skincare product brand. So you can see on the screen, it shows you how bad your wrinkles are, how bad your dark circles are, whether you have a bad skin shine problem. It gives you some explanations as to what these different things mean. And then it comes up with a skincare regimen made up of Newtox products that you should use to be able to improve your skin conditions. Then it has links for you to go to different e-commerce websites to purchase those products. So this is an example of how expert opinion, usually if you want to get skincare analysis, you would go to the shop or clinic and consult with a doctor. I'm not saying that this can completely replace doctors, but it is a very good way for people to get initial preliminary analysis of their conditions without having to go to a clinic or a shop or any other location. This can be done completely at home by the user. There's another project Dr. Siti mentioned as well during her introduction. It was a collaboration with Maxis, a telecommunications company in Malaysia. This one is called Recollection. So this is an AR application for dementia sufferers. AR is supposed to make interaction with computer applications really, really simple. So what this is a simple point and experience application. The dementia sufferers, the elderly users, are given physical photographs that are prepared by caregivers or family members with digital content. So in order to trigger the digital content, all the elderly user has to do is point the app at the individual photograph, and the memory as a digital video or photo or soundbite will be played. In addition to that, analysis is done to analyze the user behavior, to see what are their favorite photos, what are their favorite people, what's their favorite color and event, and so on. This will give the caregivers and family members a better insight into what stimulates the mind of their loved one more, and they can then prepare more of that kind of content. And this can be done completely at home. In the past, reminiscence therapy, conventionally, it's done at a facility, or it requires the family members to be together with the dementia sufferer. But in this case, yes, it requires a smartphone, but the only interaction that's required is for the elderly user to point at different objects. This next one is a bit related to e-commerce, online shopping. This is a VR, virtual reality showroom for Subaru cars. This experience is actually set up in a Subaru showroom in Singapore, but with a VR headset, this can easily be experienced by anybody at home. So you can place any product, any car model, you can customize it with different colors and different options. You can go inside the car, look at the dashboard and the steering wheel, and look at the different features. There'll be pop-ups that explain each feature to the user. You can pop the trunk, look at how big it is. Everything is in true to life scale. And so this is a really good way of showcasing certain products that require a lot of close scrutiny by the potential customer. This next one is an initiative that the team at Ministry XR created. This was specifically for the COVID-19 situation. We call this the My Safe City. This is for Malaysians to experience at home as well on their mobile phone. It's a web-based augmented reality experience. So what users get is an augmented reality city, which they can explore by moving around, going closer. They can tap on the different buttons to take part in different activities. This one is a myth buster activity that gets the user to learn what are the myths and facts that have arisen out of the coronavirus. Before that, there was also a prompt for the user to tap on the apartment building to get a glimpse of a faraway land. So that experience created a portal, a window that showed the beach. This is a place that Malaysians haven't been able to go to, but to bring some semblance of normalcy back, we put that in a window that they can then pop their head out and look around and experience and be immersed in the beach. So this AR application is sort of a super sampler of different AR and non-AR activities, but it's all triggered via an AR city. So I'm assuming that with this talk there are people of different levels of familiarity with AR and VR. So I just want to define some of the important differences between AR and VR and some of the important differences between the different kinds of experiences of AR and VR. So AR is where there's a lot of involvement with the physical world. And as Dr. Siti earlier mentioned, virtual objects are overlaid and augmented into the physical reality. So different AR applications actually have different levels of involvement and interaction between physical objects and the physical world and the virtual objects. Some AR applications are just with virtual information overlaid on a view of the real world, but this information can be contextually related to what is happening in the real world. But some AR experiences, virtual objects can even be hiding, be occluded and be hiding behind physical objects. So it all depends on how much understanding of the physical world there is by the system that is running the experience. On the other hand, virtual reality VR is where the whole environment, everything that the user sees and experiences is completely computer generated. So the user is completely immersed in a totally different environment. A lot of AR and VR practitioners and researchers make use of this reality virtuality continuum to sort of categorize how real or how virtual the application that they are designing is. So on one side of the spectrum, you have the real environment where everything is real, this is our reality. And on the other side is a completely virtual environment, so that is exactly what VR is. And in between is where AR, augmented reality, lies. AR is where there's a lot of involvement with the physical environment, and there are virtual objects added on. There's also a lesser known term called augmented virtuality, where this is where more of the content is virtual, and there's a smaller involvement of real life. So some of the devices that are very important to experiencing AR and VR, you have VR headsets, you have AR headsets and AR glasses as well. These are head mounted. You have to wear them over your eyes, but it gives you a hands-free experience of the content, and you are able to use your hands to interact with the computer application. There's also smartphone and tablet-based augmented reality, where you have to hold up the device and use the device as a lens to view the content. So with AR, you can be walking around the environment and you hold up your phone and you can get, for example, navigation instructions that are overlaid onto the road or the pavement, telling you to turn left, to turn right to get to your destination. VR is also possible with smartphones. There are boxes with lenses in them that you can slot in the mobile phone and you can wear them over your head, and then you can be completely immersed in a VR world. Deviceless AR is also possible. Projection mapping can be used to transform the environment that you are in to make it look and feel like you're in a different place. And there's a upcoming technology, upcoming technological advancements are also on the way that can actually physically generate light in midair. So how this works is that it uses femtosecond lasers to ionize the air molecules, and researchers have really shown that they can draw 3D shapes in midair. And there's even a side effect of haptic feedback. So if you bring your hand to the light, and you can touch and feel it as well, slightly. So ambient intelligence is where the environment is prepared with devices and with sensors, so you don't have to wear anything, you don't have to hold anything, and the environment can then be transformed and can track your interactions and react to you accordingly. And there are different scales of AR experiences. This is very important when designing the kind of experience, the kind of application that you want people to experience. So earlier on, the example that I showed with the Safe City, that's a tabletop scale experience. because all the content, all the AR content is placed on the tabletop, and whether it's an individual experience or a collaborative experience, everybody walks around the table. Then there are room scale experiences that places the content, the AR content, all over your room. So you will be able to walk around and interact with different objects that are placed around your room, and objects might even be able to interact with the physical objects in your room if there is some kind of scene understanding built into the system. Then there are world scale experiences where you can walk around outside your environment, around the neighborhood in the city, and different information and guiding AR overlays are presented to you as you are walking. So it's all contextually relevant to where your location is, and it could even be depending on what your interest or your task is. In augmented reality, physical anchors are very important. You need something in the real world for the virtual objects to be anchored to. So the most common ones right now are flat images or patterns. We call these markers. Nowadays, videos are also possible to be used as an anchor as well. So on the anchor will sit the AR, the 3D AR graphics, and you sort of use that as a coordinate system. So designers would then place things in relation to the anchor. Physical objects can also be used as anchors. So you can have, for example, in a museum, you can have a statue where you can place other different animations and or videos or explaining text to talk about the object. So today with 3D printing, a lot of experiences can be done at home with object-based physical anchors. You can place an object in your home, and a whole story can be told in AR through that object. And lastly, the environment itself can be an anchor. So this is where the mobile device or your wearable device would be scanning your environment, and it would get a geometric 3D understanding of the physical environment, and it would then be able to place AR graphics, virtual objects into the environment to set up the experience for the user. For virtual reality, there are also minor differences. Mainly, the main difference is between 3 degrees of freedom and 6 degrees of freedom. So with 3 degrees of freedom, this is where only your head rotations are tracked. This is mainly for sit-down experiences. You can have a controller, and you can be immersed in an environment where you look around and you can point at different things and interact. 6 degrees of freedom is similar to the Subaru VR showroom that I showed earlier. So this is where the user can be standing up, he can be walking around, and he has complete freedom of movement as long as that area of the room is being tracked by the sensors. And the user can then interact with anything, open the car door, open the trunk, and go inside, go outside, and so on. The only thing that that the user has to take care of is that since everything is virtual, if you see a virtual chair in the room, it doesn't mean that there's a physical chair there as well, and then you wouldn't be able to sit down. So that accidents have happened before. And so if there's no physical object in the room representing the virtual object, then the safety precautions have to be communicated to the user. So earlier on, I mentioned in the real virtual continuum. This is an example of augmented virtuality. This is something that we created with Ford Motors for the KL International Motor Show a couple of years back. So this is where the entire environment is virtual, but the user and the car is based on the real thing in the car motor show. So users get to see themselves on the big screen going through different situations in the Ford Ranger Wild Track. So why do we want to have AR and VR, immersive interaction with computer applications? So this is one of my favorite quotes. This is actually what motivates me to be in this industry, right? So Mark Weiser, he was the CTO of Xerox Palo Alto Research Center, and many of us in the ubiquitous computing industry, we look up to this guy as a pioneer. What he said was that machines that fit the human environment, instead of forcing humans to enter theirs, will make using a computer as refreshing as taking a walk in the woods. So in today's digital world, there's so much information at our fingertips. With the internet and the Internet of Things, everything is connected. And this can really bog down the user with a high cognitive load of having to manually filter information so that they can get what they want. So is this really making computers useful, or is it allowing computers to reach its full potential? Right. So with AR, we think that computers can be better. There is actually a lot of information in the woods. There's so many different species. There's so many different flora and fauna and things to see. But when we walk through the woods, it is refreshing. It is calm and it's peaceful. And so the goal of AR is to make using a computer as refreshing as taking a walk in the woods. So to go deeper into this concept, there have been a couple of paradigm shifts in the field of human-computer interaction. So a lot of us, if we have been born decades earlier, we would have been very familiar. Even today, I think I'm exaggerating the issue a bit, but so a lot of us still use personal computers, laptops and desktop computers, and we use the keyboard and mouse. A lot of us have gotten used to this, but at the same time, there are a lot of computer applications on the desktop model that are very hard for a lot of us to get used to. For example, with video editing, so there are professional video editors that have very sophisticated software just to do video editing. But with the advent of mobile phones and touchscreen monitors, simple video editing can be done by anybody nowadays. Anybody and everybody can be a content creator, can be a YouTuber, and all they need is a smartphone with a camera that can capture video, and all they need to do is to swipe on the touchscreen to be able to trim clips, to be able to splice and rearrange things and add music and so on. So from the paradigm shift from the PC model of computing with the keyboard and mouse way of interacting to the touchscreen model, there was a huge shift in the paradigm of human-computer interaction, and it allowed for much larger number of people to become computer literate. The elderly generation who would never touch a PC, a desktop computer, now they are all on mobile phones using WhatsApp and YouTube and Google, and they're all connected to us, the younger generation, right? So then what is the next paradigm shift? The next paradigm shift is slated to be an even bigger one than the one from the keyboard and mouse to the touchscreen. And this is to the spatial realm, where everyone, regardless of computer literacy, age, gender, ability, we all make use of computers through the most natural means. We can speak to it, we can use gestures, we can pick things up, and the computer understands us, the computer understands our environment and gives us the most relevant information and computer user interfaces that we need for the task at hand. So just to give some, so I've spoken a lot and I just want to show some videos to illustrate what I'm talking about. This is a VR application called Gravity Sketch. It's a product that's created by another company, and it's a VR product design application where the user in full 6 degrees of freedom VR can make use of his physical environment to move around and to sketch out different products in 3D. So this example shows the design of a sneaker. It's very intuitive and it can be done collaboratively as well. Different designers can come into the same environment and do different parts of the design. So with AR and VR, you are not just limited to the touch screen if you're using a mobile phone. You're not just limited to a controller if you're using a headset, a VR headset. There are products in the market, there are methods that can use cameras to detect your hand motion fully articulated in 3D, every finger. You can use this for direct manipulation of virtual objects in AR or VR experiences. Cameras and machine learning algorithms can recognize the activity that you are taking part in your environment, and it can then cause the environment to react accordingly. Natural language processing is used to allow people to speak naturally to a computer without having to learn any syntax, any specific keywords. Eye gaze tracking can be used by people in a smart environment looking at different physical or virtual objects to trigger certain functionality. Tangible user interfaces are where computer applications are fully controlled by physical objects in the environment. So in this picture here, it shows a projection-based augmented reality application that teaches students about geography and geology and topology of different natural features in the environment. So what the students can do is it's a sandbox filled with actual sand that users can dig valleys and create rivers or create mountains. And the projection graphics will change the look of the environment accordingly. There are also brain-computer interfaces where you don't even have to do anything. You just have to think, and the computer can react accordingly. So these are ways of bringing in natural interaction to AR and VR applications. Here's an example. It's a product called Spatial I/O. So this product is best experienced with AR glasses. It can also be experienced with VR glasses. And if you're using AR glasses, you can use your hands to manipulate objects that other people in the room can also interact with. So it's a very good tool for collaborative learning and discussion and design and so on. So one of the major goals of AR and VR is to make technology calm technology. So what this means is the computer application could be a very sophisticated one, but the interface can be designed in such a way that users remain calm while using it. So one example here shown on screen is called Dangling String by Natalie Yeremiyenko. She created this. It's an art exhibition actually in 1995. And it is one of the most cited examples of calm technology. So the use case is network engineers are supposed to monitor the network usage of their company and scale the server capacity up and down accordingly. So conventionally, how they do this is they have to monitor graphs that are updated in real time. So they would have to be sitting constantly in front of the screen, staring at graphs. But what Natalie did was that she engineered a dangling string connected to a motor that was connected to a network sensor. And this is supposed to be placed at the peripheral vision of network engineers. When there's high network activity, the string would shake vigorously. And when there's low network activity, the string would remain still. So this, out of the corner of the network engineer's eyes, they can be focused on other things, but when they see out of the corner of the eye, moving object, and research has shown that peripheral vision is very attention grabbing when there's something moving all of a sudden. So when they see that the string is shaking vigorously, they can then go and adjust the server capacity accordingly. And here's another example of CAM technology via a tangible user interface. And this is also this is a prototype that we created that's related to the Maxis dementia project as well. It's called Unforgettable, and it uses a tangible user interface to use for the user to place physical objects in the house. They place it on the smart table that we created, and it triggers the playback of related media. At the same time, with EEG sensors, the system detects the brainwave activities and generates a report for caregivers and loved ones to see how effective the different objects are. This is a video of this Maxis Unforgettable project.
Oh, Mom was an ever efficient lady. For Chinese New Year, she will cook everything and she will invite everybody. Unfortunately now, she doesn't recognize anybody. One of the most powerful activities we do is called reminiscence. The most important part of reminiscence is it takes away their anxiety.
We are conducting studies to see how different contents affects the brainwave patterns to understand how the reminiscence therapy can be optimized.
Every single person with dementia is different. The first rule is learn about their past, their routines, their triggers.
This is another example of, this one is more in industry setting where
digital transformation should empower your people. Today, a high-performance workforce requires...
So this one is about the ability to collaborate remotely to carry out maintenance in a factory. This one is called Chalk. is created by a company called Euphoria.
An easy-to-use, powerful support tool that allows your workforce to collaborate in real time, anywhere. Chalk enables your workforce to connect for support or training. First, employees can share a live view of their workspace with an expert or...
So remote experts can annotate the view of the user at the location with graphics that are registered in 3D to the equipment that they are maintaining.
Reality technology. Your annotations stick exactly where they're drawn, even when you move around as you work. In fact, you can pause the live view to draw easy-to-follow, multi-step instructions. With Chalk, simple instructions help you solve complex problems quickly and effectively. Chalk works on mobile devices, meaning your most experienced minds are accessible any...
So in this way, we don't have to get all the engineers and experts all in the same location trying to troubleshoot and fix things. And conventionally, when experts were overseas, it was done by phone, which is very hard to communicate instructions. And many a time, these experts could be native speakers of completely different language as well. So this is a really, really good and useful tool to close the gap of communication. Digital twins is a concept where physical resources or processes are a digital copy of it is created, and the state of these resources or processes, for example, it could be a factory assembly process of or manufacturing process with actual physical machines, but these machines can be represented digitally in augmented reality that highlight and reflect the actual state of these devices in the factory. So this allows for working remotely, operating and maintaining these resources from home or from another remote location. So the benefits of using AR, VR in the new normal, what I've tried to highlight, AR and VR and natural interaction methods. This allows users of all kinds of different computer literacy levels and backgrounds to be able to seamlessly interact with computer applications without having to think or learn how to use the computer. Another benefit is with remote collaboration tasks and with remote collaborative learning, this is a very important capability in the new normal. And with AR and VR, it will become very natural for people of different backgrounds to come together and do things together. With AR and VR also, productivity can return to what it used to be before people had to start working remotely. And in fact, we have been working on these solutions even before the pandemic came about. And already many studies and prototypes have shown that with AR and VR, productivity can even be greater with AR and VR applications. And with learning as well, whether it's collaborative learning or learning on your own, AR and VR makes it more possible for even abstract concepts to be learned kinesthetically, meaning to say through actual movement and practical doing of tasks. When we are creating AR and VR applications, AR, VR itself, these are just user interfaces for the new paradigm of computing. What AR, VR does is it unleashes the full potential of all other technologies such as 5G, AI, deep learning, Internet of Things, big data, blockchain, and so on. Because all these sophisticated technology will not reach its full potential unless users are able to use them effectively without a lot of cognitive load. So when we are designing for AR and VR, especially for the new normal now, it's very critical. User experience is the most important. When there's any part of the user experience that is not right, it's rough, it just makes people get turned off, then the whole AR or VR experience will not work. This is a piece of advice that is very good. It's to fall in love with the problem. And because we are dealing with such a new paradigm, a lot of the conventional guidelines for creating computer applications will not be applicable. And when we are creating, for example, a new way of shopping immersively and remotely, we have to get to the root of the problem. Why do people go shopping? Why do people want to go to a shopping mall, want to browse, want to look at products? So we have to really dig down into psychology of that process and design our AR or VR application from that platform. As I showed earlier, we have to leverage other technologies because AR, VR is just a user interface. And with AR and VR, we can transcend physical limitations and constraints. We can make anything happen. If we can't make it happen in real life, we augment our reality with virtual objects and experiences. And so what we can achieve is really only limited by what our imagination tells us. So with that, I end my webinar, and I think we have a short space of time now for taking questions from the audience.
Yes, Dr. Andrew, thank you very much. Thank you very much for this enlightening session. Definitely, you have taken us through, as a lay person, you have made it very simple and understandable for all of us of how, what is VR, how it influences our life, and how it can make a better future for us. And really, thank you very much for this intuitive and interesting session, Doctor. Now, we are open for questions. So you can post your questions now. I would leave Mr. Leo to handle the question answer session now.
Yeah, yes, Andrew, Dr. Andrew, you have really done well. Oh, the two lines that I like to highlight. One is fall in love with the problem. That is one of the best things that you have really brought out. That's one thing. And the second one is use AR to have a walk in the woods. This two lines speaks the volume of your presentation. So that's the best part. So the first question comes here, like, what do you think about the next breakthrough? So what do you feel, Doctor?
I see that this question is from Faisal, nickname Fizz. I recognize his name. He was an intern at Ministry XR. I'm sure he has many ideas and many opinions about this as well in his mind. For me, the next breakthrough, well, I think there have been many ideas of revolutionizing all different industries using AR and VR. But with the pandemic, the most critical thing the most critical need that has arisen, and what I think a lot of AR VR developers have pivoted towards is collaborative activities, collaborative learning, and product design, and so on. So with AR VR, we, as I said earlier, we are able to bring together people of all different backgrounds. Even if they can't speak the same language, they can use gestures and they can draw things in midair, which anyone can see and understand. That would, I think, be one of the most immediate breakthroughs that would come soon, or even is here. With spatial I/O. I see another question on screen from Jezreel. How does content development for AR and VR work? Content development, you are creating, especially with VR, you are creating a completely immersive environment, and you need to engineer everything, right? So there is the environment which you need to create in 3D. You can populate the environment with other kinds of media like flat videos and 2D graphics, text. You need to engage other senses of the user, otherwise it wouldn't be as immersive and it wouldn't feel as good. So you need to produce audio that fits with the environment. And when you're fully immersed in the 3D environment, you need to create what we call spatial audio. So this is it's an audio track where it changes according to where you look and where you move. There are actual audio file formats now for spatial audio, and there are spatial audio recording devices and software that studios could use. There are many different ways. You could use more traditional ways of creating 3D models, 3D modeling and animation. But with AR and VR, of course, you have to make it possible to be rendered in real time. So it's more towards like the game development process of 3D modeling. There are also newer ways of creating content. Volumetric capture and photogrammetry are two ways of creating virtual models out of physical objects without having to go through the modeling process from scratch. And once you have all this content, you put it together into an AR or VR 3D scene. So there are a few software that can also really help with that, namely Unity and the Unreal Engine, where there's a lot of user-friendly features that allows you to drag and drop audio and video and 3D models into the scene, which you can rapidly prototype and rapidly build an AR experience so that users can quickly experience and adjust accordingly.
Yeah. I think, Mr. Andrew, you can take one question from Mr. Naresh, which he's talked about on health.
Okay.
Yep.
Yes.
Naresh, that's another name I recognize. Prolonged usage of AR, VR solutions and applications. There are no studies that show, as far as I know, there are no studies that show really adverse effects, long-term adverse effects of AR and VR per se. Of course, there have been many studies that talk about how the user psychology changes from prolonged playing of games, so these would also apply in AR VR. If prolonged exposure or prolonged usage of AR and VR games, depending on the content, it might affect you or not. I believe the research is still, there's no consensus yet on whether games are really good or bad. In terms of physical health, yes, there are many reports of users of VR headsets that complain of dizziness and motion sickness after going through a VR experience for more than 15 to 20 minutes. But I have found that this can be mitigated, and this needs to be corrected through, number one, how you develop the experience. So as I said earlier, right, you can immerse users visually, but if you don't immerse them in their other senses, for example, if they can hear the real world and it doesn't gel with what they experience in the virtual world, you get really sick very quickly. You have to really immerse them in VR. Another thing also, it's dependent on the specifications of the hardware that you use. So with VR hardware, a high frame rate is very important. High resolution is very important. If so we found earlier prototypes of VR devices where there was a very bad screen door effect, where you could see the individual pixels and the black outline around each of them, and the frame rates were not good. So when you walk around, when you move around, the update wouldn't be immediate, and that really makes you feel really sick. But today, VR devices have come a really long way. There's a VR headset called Vajo that actually achieves human eyes scale of resolution. So the technology is always getting better. Computing power is a very big factor in terms of making it possible for high frame rate and high resolution to be achieved. And today, VR headsets and the computing power that accompanies it are very advanced, and users are starting to feel more comfortable with prolonged use of VR.
The next question is there on your screen, Doctor.
Yeah.
Can you explain about extended reality and mixed reality? Are they similar to AR?
Okay. The official definitions of extended reality and mixed reality, I think they are considered umbrella terms, especially extended reality, XR, right? Which is where our company name, Ministry XR, gets its XR from. Extended reality is an umbrella term encompassing AR, VR, and any other kinds of realities within that real virtual continuum. So with mixed reality, okay, so AR, to me, AR and mixed reality are quite synonymous. I've been in this industry for 10 years. I started in academia, and back then, AR and there was no such term called mixed reality, right? So back then, AR was where virtual and physical objects could interact and understand each other, cohabitate the same physical space. But then other forms of AR came about over the years, where you would only have virtual graphics overlaying a view of the real world. The physical environment and the virtual objects wouldn't have any knowledge of each other, so they wouldn't interact. So it's just a superimposed view, or it's just an overlay. So I believe today they have sort of differentiated between those kinds of experiences and the deeper interaction between real and virtual. So just the overlay kind of experiences, they are calling it AR, and the deeper interaction kinds of experiences, they are calling it MR or mixed reality. But there are still a lot of people that that just use AR to mean both.
Doctor, we have lots of questions. I think if you agree, we will combine only the last three best questions and then post it for you.
Yes, and I'll be happy to answer any further questions
Okay.
after this via email.
Yeah. So there's one question for you up on screen.
You plan to make a VR horror game using phobias for your FYP. The purpose is to scare users, help them overcome their phobias. Has Ministry XR developed any apps or programs similar? I don't like to scare people. I am not one to scare easily. I watch horror movies. I love horror movies. I like to elevate my emotions. But VR horror is something that I couldn't take. I tried and I couldn't. This was a short film produced in Taiwan. And the scene was in a bathroom that had blood splattered all over the walls, on the bathtub, on the toilet. And so I was in the headset, I was standing in the middle of the room, and then this lady with long hair covering her eyes, her face, with long fingernails, she suddenly appeared from the bathtub, right? And that got my heart pumping already. And then the screen blacked out, flashed off for a second, and then it came back, and then she got closer, and it flashed a few times, and each time it got closer and closer until it got right, at my feet, and that's when I threw off the headset. I don't know if I might have damaged it, but I couldn't take it. So that was really scary. But for overcoming phobias, I do know of studies that have been done in universities, and it has shown to be really effective in overcoming. For example, one of the studies that they did was overcoming phobia of spiders, and I have that. So I think I should probably go and experience this application. So what they do is, and overcoming phobias, the science of it is quite well established. It's through gradual exposure to what scares you. And if it's not possible for you to get a tarantula to your house, or it's not possible for you to go to a place where they can manage tarantulas if you're scared of spiders, then VR is perfect, because then you can be at home and you can just see it right in front of you, or even AR. You can see it right in front of you, and you can the program can be tuned so that it slowly increases your exposure to it more and more. The only thing is that maybe you will not be able to touch it, which is one of the stages in exposure. However, with virtual reality and augmented reality, you can make use of haptic devices to simulate the feeling of touching a spider, and that can be very realistic from my experience.
Okay, thank you, Doctor. Next question from Matthew.
May I know your views in mixed reality in terms of its practical usage in enhancing the tertiary education system? MR is definitely has very, very great potential. There's an interesting statistic that shows that education, AR and VR for education, it has one of the greatest potential in terms of applications of AR and VR, but it has the greatest untapped potential. And the reason why this is because a lot of AR and VR content for education, it is not developed and designed to make full use of AR and VR. So with AR and VR, you have kinesthetic learning. You can make use of concepts like gestural congruence, which is a psychological concept that that states that your actions, and your physical motions can promote higher level understanding of abstract concepts, right? But a lot of the initial and preliminary AR and VR education content that we have seen developers put out, it is more of taking what is presented in textbooks and putting it in a 3D immersive environment. Sometimes all that's done is they put the same text and diagrams as 2D images, but in 3D. And that's not very effective. And that's not making full use of the AR and VR system, right? So if the learning outcome isn't better than from reading a textbook and from watching a video, then there's no point in adopting AR and VR at all. So that's where AR, VR has fallen short. But I mean, this is a relatively new technology, and developers and educators are constantly improving the methodology of delivering AR and VR education content. Even tertiary education, same across the board.
Okay.
Will AR and VR help people who are disabled? Definitely. AR need not just be visual. You can augment other senses. And one of the projects that I actually was involved in when I was working in the university was a smart white cane for the blind. So the smart white cane, you have sensor that can detect structures in the environment. It can detect dips in your path or obstacles in front of you and so on, stairs and so on. And it will, the smart cane can vibrate in different ways to inform the user on what the obstacles are immediately, right? It can also be used with a headset for the system to inform the user on road signs. So this was where we integrated computer vision and machine learning to understand what different road signs mean as the blind user will be walking around. And so in this way, we are using AR, but only to augment the sense of feel and the sense of hearing.
Okay.
Okay, one more question. Yeah.
Web AR. So AR technology is highly dependent on tracking and registration. Tracking and registration means that you make use of the camera of your device, whether it's your mobile phone or the headset, to understand the environment. There were different kinds of physical anchors that AR graphics are registered to, that are anchored to. So this requires the camera to understand and recognize these anchors. And this is quite a heavy task for a computer to do, right? So in the past, AR would only have been possible on desktop computers or on more powerful mobile devices. But as web browser technology improves and as mobile devices get more powerful, web AR has now become possible. How to start in it? There are a few ways for marker-based web AR. Now I'm going to be more technically specific here. You can search for ar.js. It's a project for JavaScript that enables marker-based AR. If you are looking for SLAM-based, meaning the application is able to understand an environment and put objects into it without any predefined marker or pattern, then the best way forward is 8th Wall. Search for 8th Wall, and it will bring you to a company that provides a framework for developing SLAM for the web. Next question is on privacy and security for IoT devices with AR and VR. So security is, I don't see a lot of back-end difference in protecting devices with AR and VR. But AR specifically, when the user is wearing a device, then that is it's a very personal experience, and no one can share what you see unless it is a shared experience where other people who are wearing devices are also placed in the same persistent environment. But with other kinds of AR, mobile-based AR, then your screen is there for all to see, and that could be an issue, and that's something that the developers need to perhaps control the environment where the AR application is used. There are other concerns as well that are sort of related. like safety concerns when you're using an AR application and you're focused on certain graphics, you miss out hazards, and these issues are more for external management and control by the designers of the experiences. So you might want to communicate to the users. Please make sure that especially if it's a very sensitive there's going to be sensitive content, please make sure that you are in a private environment. Please make sure to focus on physical hazards that are in your environment. Please be aware, and so on. It's like how you go to an ATM and right in front of you there's a little message that says make sure that there's no one behind you, and they put a little mirror there that you can check, right? So there's a lot of external management still required to make AR and VR experiences safe and secure and private.
Okay. This one is interesting.
We are always on the lookout for interns. Right now, we have, I think, close to 10 interns. How to apply? Shoot an email or go to our website and fill in the form. Shoot an email to info@theministry.asia. You can just email me since I flashed that on screen just now, and I'll forward it to our HR, saying that you want an internship and what kind of skill you are interested on honing with us in terms of AR VR development. And there are many different kinds of skills. We need graphic designers, we need content producers, audio, visual as well. We need programmers, we need web programmers, and we also need mobile application programmers, and we need HoloLens programmers as well. We need a lot of people who can be creative, because one of the biggest things that are lacking in this industry is people who can dream, who have a very vivid imagination. Because as I said earlier, we are in a completely new paradigm of computing, and we need people to break away from the constraints of conventional computing. So the requirements that you have a passion for AR and VR. That's it. We are very glad to train our interns and to to help them learn as they do the job, on the job training. The only thing is passion.
Okay. Okay, let me see. Well, last one question we'll have time to take. So we are trying as much as possible to answer to all of your questions. We have tried and avoided repetitive questions, but I think a good number of questions have come from the audience. So we'll take one more question, last question. Yes.
Can you explain more about your latest WebR project, My Safe City? That's a web-based AR using SLAM. So we made use of 8th Wall to do that. For the gentleman who asked the earlier question, 8th Wall to make use of SLAM technology. SLAM stands for simultaneous localization and mapping, to enable our mobile phones and the web browser, any web browser, to be able to scan and understand the environment, so that we can place our safe city there. So our safe city is, as I said earlier, it's sort of like a super sampler of different kinds of AR as well as non-AR applications or experiences, I mean. So the safe city is was an initiative by our team for helping anybody, but in particular Malaysians, because a lot of the activities are related to Malaysian companies and activities. But it was for anyone to learn more about the coronavirus in a more engaging way. We plan for different activities to be activated for the individual user every day. So it wouldn't be the same thing on the same day, because there's a lot of, like our Mythbuster module where you click on the City Hall and then it asks you a question. Is this true or false? There's so many different questions that can be asked, and we don't want to overload the user. AR, with AR design, we cannot overload anybody. And so we have many different activities. Each activity has a lot of different content. So what we did was that we divided content into different days. So it's like a daily challenge kind of thing. So we had one that was the Mythbuster. We have one that is the AR portal, where we try and bring back a sense of normalcy to people who are stuck at home, who are itching to travel, even just to the beach. They can't do so. So we have that portal that we place on the tabletop when the user activates that module, and you are able to move your phone through the window, and then when you look around, you are completely immersed in inside the beach, and then you can come back out and go back to the city. There's another one where we have a list of ways that people can get involved in the community to donate money or to help the community in different ways. So there's a social initiative set up in Malaysia. I can't remember the name, Kita Jiga Kita or something like that. I don't know if Edwin, you are familiar. It's a collective of set up in Malaysia. So with this AR Safe City, people can also get to know what the different initiatives are, and I think there are like close to 100 of these. So again, we have to really, filter it for the user. So it's daily. There's different ones, and you're also able to click to browse different ones. So we are trying to make it as comprehensive as possible in terms of getting involved and surviving the coronavirus.
Okay, Dr. Andrew, it was really good. Like, you touched up from game, and you went on to talked about commercials, test drives, and the experience. I would say, like, you really made one full package so that anyone from the basics can understand, anyone from the advanced stage can understand your presentation. And it was really one good one. I'd like to thank you in the name of Kumaraguru College for your effort, for your presentation, for your time. It was really good. And I'd like to thank Mr. Edwin for collaborating with us, and allowing us to be a part of your webinar program. Special thanks to our participants. We had participants from around 7 countries like India, Malaysia, Singapore, Philippines, Iran, Muscat, and Australia. So it was one good session. Thank you, Siti, for joining us for the welcome speech. Edwin, we like to also I like to also express special gratitude in the name of Kumaraguru for the best webinars you've been organizing with our joint effort. And with that, I'll hand over the session to you. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Leo. I think we cannot definitely thank enough Dr. Andrew. Definitely, it's been a wonderful session. Looking at the feedback from the audience, it has been well received. We are getting a lot of good, positive comments and thank you messages for you in the comment section. And as Leo said, we had a wonderful audience, around 257 watching even toward the end of the session. That means that this session was definitely intuitive, interesting, and engaging for the audience, and knowledgeable for definitely. So thank you again, Dr. Andrew. Siti, your words, please. Anything that you want to share?
Thank you, Dr. Andrew, for a very informative sharing session. Thank you, Eddie, for inviting me as the co-host. And also thank you, Leo. Long time didn't see you, and it's such a pleasure to meet you today. And thank you, everyone, for joining this session. Hope we can have other session related to VR after this, and maybe we can invite Dr. Andrew or his colleagues to give information. Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Dr. Siti. The feedback form link has been shared. Kindly fill in the feedback form to claim your e-certificate. That's important. We would need at least 3 working days to actually send you the e-certificates. So please ensure that you fill in the feedback form. The feedback form will be available for you to fill in until tomorrow. So but don't delay it. Ensure that you give us a feedback. This is very important for us so that we could give you better webinars. Definitely work towards how we can give you engaging webinars that you are in need of. So please do fill in the feedback form. I would like to also share that the next upcoming session. So this is planned for next week, and this is going to be really, really interesting for all you young graduates who are currently working and who are about to get graduated. We have organized a session by one of our senior graduate students from the School of Media Arts and Design, Monica. She is a VFX expert, and she has been into freelancing. She has been a very, very active student, and now an active freelancing as a freelancer. So she wants to share experiences, do's and donuts as a freelancer. So this session is definitely going to be interesting for all you people who want to study as well as do part-time job. So please do be a part of this session as well. This will happen on the 29th, which is next Friday. Same time. So definitely we are waiting to present this webinar for you. So please do join in. We will share you the registration link so that you can register. So again, from my end, from APU, from School of Media Arts and Design, we like to thank Dr. Andrew for this wonderful session, Dr. Siti for being our co-host, and Leo for being our co-host from KCLAS. So thank you very much. On that note, I'd like to sign off by wishing you all a very, very happy Hari Raya. And for those in India, happy Ramadan. For all those who are celebrating, we wish you a Salamat Hari Raya. And for those who are not celebrating, have a enjoyable holiday. See you next week, Friday, 29th May. Thank you very much. This is Edwin signing off on behalf of APU. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.